Yes, good morning and welcome to today's edition of Know Your Right, our legal program on Lagoon Radio, your number one online gospel radio in Nigeria and the official radio of the Anglican Communion Diocese of Lagos. Yes, and today we'll be looking at the integrity of our courts and election petitions. The integrity of our courts and election petitions. And this morning we have a professor in the studio, Professor Olarewaju Onadeko. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria, a former director general, Nigerian Law School, and currently he is a professor and dean, Faculty of Law, at Jai Crowther University, Oyo. He's also a member of the Inner Bar. All right, sir, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nosike.
Okay, sir. Now, when we talk about the integrity of courts and the election petition, let's just have a brief discussion on the election petition.
Okay.
So, what is the election petition?
Well, thank you again for having me. Election petitions are the reaction of unsuccessful or aggrieved participants at an election, be it at the federal level or the state level, or even the local government level when they hold their elections. The aggrieved person, of course, will most likely be the person who has not been declared elected. So it is such a person that will approach the tribunal constituted for hearing petitions and will file his petition there and await the other party, the respondents. He will be the petitioner, and await the respondents to respond, and the hearing will be held, evidence will be led, and the tribunal, usually constituted of judges of superior courts of record, will make a decision thereon, and that will be the judgment of the tribunal.
Okay, as a legal practitioner, what can you say about the integrity of our courts, most especially on election petitions?
Well, the courts are there, duly constituted by law, to adjudicate over matters, including electoral matters, as the petitions really are. And there is really nothing out of the ordinary about tribunals and petitions filed therein. If you look at it, it's more or less the same process as regular or routine litigation in our courts. And those who man the tribunals are also judges who sit in courts. So, to that extent, there is nothing really unusual or special about our tribunals. I think what has become an issue is the zeal and that the litigants put into their cases, and of course allegations of undercurrents, including perhaps reaching the judex, that is those who adjudicate, to favor one party or the other. These are usually allegations made, and they're very rife. I mean, even before the tribunals start sitting, there are already all sorts of allegations flying around. So the way I see it is this. In Nigeria, we have, I think, developed a very keen attitude towards emergence of leadership. And that has created a crop of maybe uh, professional, this can describe as professional politicians. They have no other job. I mean, they see it as a full-time job. And if you look at what they get at the federal level, I mean, it's incredible. So you can imagine what the battle about being successful will involve. So that has made the judiciary to become an unfortunate victim of the entire process, because the buck passing stops at the table of the judges who decide the cases. So there are all sorts of things. Don't get me wrong. Some have been found to be proven in the past, and quite a lot have been mere allegations. But the truth is that's where we are in Nigeria, and maybe it's now time for us to start looking for some other ways of doing what we have been doing over and over and getting the same result over the years.
Okay, after the presidential election, I watched a senior advocate of Nigeria on television. He said that he believes in the Nigerian courts, but for some judges, he does not believe on them. Now, that will lead me to, let me ask you personally, do you believe in the integrity of our judges and justices to dispense justice with fairness without fear or favor in matters of election petitions?
Yes, my answer will be in the affirmative. I believe in the integrity, competence, ability, and assiduousness of Nigerian judges to dispense justice without fear or favor. Now, you see, if you have, let's say, 1,000 judges, and if 1% of them fouls the environment, the atmosphere, it is the negativity of their actions that will be used in viewing the others when we make general statements. I have friends among judges, serving and retired, many of them. These are men of proven integrity. These are men. I mean, I won't mention names, but many of us know judges who will hold their own anywhere on earth. Take them there. Nigerian judges. And we are very proud of those ones. It is the few who may step out of line, that creates the worry. And that's, I must say, I mean, we can't run away from it. That's bad enough, to give us concern as a nation.
Okay. On that question, Nigerians are agitated that probably after the election, the slogan was "Go to court," and a lot of people have said, if the people who robbed you are telling you to go to court, that means they have this full confidence that no matter whatever happens, that they will still get that justice. And on the other hand, injustice on the people that they've robbed of their victory. So now, looking at this, with what you said also, can someone who has been robbed in the election get justice in Nigeria?
That's very interesting. You see, our courts are creations of statute. The law creates the courts. Judges are also creation of statutes. So there is really no need or no basis for the assumption that if an electoral process has been conducted and concluded, no matter how it was done, even if you allege, imperfections here and there, If the process has been concluded, the only logical and lawful thing to go to court. That's the tribunal set up or empaneled to hear petitions from the outcome of the election. So that is where you should go. And I don't see, honestly, I am not trying to be evasive here. I don't see any basis for the allegation that if your opponent says, go to court, your opponent has already watered the ground for himself, meaning that you are going to lose if you go there. That's why he's asking you to go to court. No, far from it. That is what the law has said should be done if aggrieved. And don't forget, those who are going to hear these cases, we know recommendations or appointments, recommendations have been made from various state high courts and so on. And so there's a pool of judges to hear cases, and of course the Court of Appeal is also there to hear the higher one. So the point I'm making is this: go to court does not signify go to a compromise court. No, far from it.
Okay. Thank you for that, sir. Now, something again happened after the election, and a lot of people also, because I met someone on the street. He said his heart is heavy, and his complaint was that would there be a time we take the court? Since we said that INEC is independent, would there be a time the declaration and whatever of election result, the final arbiter, will be in the hands of INEC, so that the issue of going to court after the elections will end? Would there be a time that may happen?
I honestly don't envisage that in the short or medium term of our existence here. Now, let me explain further. INEC is an arbiter. It's a body that's supposed to drive the process of elections. And it gets so much. I mean, each time I look at the amount of money we spend on elections in Nigeria every 4 years, I mean, it's amazing that we are pumping that much money into a process that elsewhere in the world runs seamlessly. I've been in countries outside Nigeria at their election times, and it has never been like this. In fact, you barely will know that voting is going on in some countries. I won't mention names, but I know. One has seen that. It's just a normal day. Here in Nigeria, we close shop just to go and vote because it's envisaged that some people are going to create problems, and there is this and that. No restriction on movements and all that. Really, it just shows that we are operating a system that's alien to us without having put in our own nuances, to bring it to be workable. That's the way I see it. The colonial masters came and told us, oh, this is the way we do it, and then we've held on tenaciously to that over the years. It's outrageous, in my view, that we put in so much into a process that is almost invariably going to be whittled down by allegations all over the place. So INEC has a job to do. And if you look at the way things have been done so far, I mean, even the recent one in Adamawa State, you will know that INEC cannot be the final arbiter in the electoral process. So I don't think so. I believe that the best way to resolve disputes as such is to go to those who have been trained to resolve disputes and allow the arm of government, that is the judiciary, that's supposed to adjudicate over matters and put it to rest.
Okay, so before we go on this short break also, there's been this confusion and allegations that the judiciary is easily influenced by the executive. And that's why the slogan of go to court, because they are easily influenced. Maybe someone in power influencing the judiciary. And it will also bring that question again. Is our judiciary truly independent in Nigeria?
Well, there's what we call the separation of powers concept in law. And you know that we have three arms in any government. The executive, that's the most visible and the most powerful arm. Then we have the legislature, which is to make laws and interpret laws. Now, of the three, the least able to, make its point and drive home its demands and, stand firm, openly, the one with the least ability to do that is the judiciary. You can make allegations against judges, but judges cannot go on air or in the print media to be refuting or battling you. So most of the time, you find that they just look at it and say, okay, let the process to prove it be concluded. And that's why you have the NJC, the National Judicial Council, which also has disciplinary powers over judges. So when allegations are made, internal disciplinary process, and judges go through this. You may not believe it, they go through it, just like anyone facing a panel. And at the end of it, the NJC will determine whether or not the allegation is proven. And if not proven, it will dismiss it. And that's the end of it. If it is proven, the relevant judge will be sanctioned appropriately. So I will still say that, yes, a perfect situation of independence may not really be visible to us. But don't forget that for as long as you find the judiciary going cap in hand to the executive for funding, their ability to be wholly independent may be compromised to an extent. In recent times, we've had the devolution of financial what do you call it? It's called like self-accounting, allowing them to do their own finances. But don't forget, we operate in a country, a federal system, where usual probity test to which other government departments, ministries, and so on and so forth are subjected to. So it's not really a clear-cut situation, but even at that, I think the judiciary is coping reasonably well in Nigeria. I think so. The constraints notwithstanding.
Okay, you're still listening to Know Your Right, our legal program on Lagoon Radio. And we've been talking about the integrity of our courts and election petitions. The prof is here. We'll go on this short break. When we come back, we'll look at more developing issues on this topic. Keep listening to us. We'll be right back after this break. You're still on to Know Your Right, our legal program on Lagoon Radio, your number one online gospel radio in Nigeria and official radio of the Anglican Communion Diocese of Lagos. We are transmitting live from the Diocesan Media Center 29 Marina, Lagos. Today, we are looking at the integrity of our courts and election petitions. And of course, we have Professor Olarowaju Onodeko. He's the senior advocate of Nigeria and former DG, the Director General, Nigerian Law School. Currently, he is a professor and dean, Faculty of Law at Jai Crowther University, Oyo, and he's a member of the INABA. Yes, he's been educating us on these election petition matters. Now, Prof, there is a question. Someone said, since it's not clear if the judiciary is independent in Nigeria, is it not a huge challenge to the will of justice?
Well, thank you. The judiciary in Nigeria is supposed to be independent. If we are going by the laws and practice of things, the reality, of course, is that the total independence of the judiciary may not be certain, considering the constraints they face. Now, if judges, for example, are appointed and even accommodation or vehicles to use are not available for months or years, how on earth do you... These are some of the challenges. There are manifold challenges that the judiciary faces in Nigeria. And as I said earlier, that notwithstanding, I believe the judiciary has held its own firmly. And we can say that we have a very good judiciary in Nigeria. I think that cannot be assailed in any way. Having said that, we should never forget that as I mentioned earlier, the most, perhaps the strongest arm of government is the executive. I mean, it has control over virtually everything. And the president, going by our constitution, is, endowed with so much powers that you can see. I mean, likewise, the governors in states. I mean, it's when you say you have three arms of government, they are not really three equal arms of government. That is the reality. Practically, they are not equally apportioned with powers. But their functions cannot be denigrated in any way. And the judiciary that we're talking about, I believe that the judiciary, in spite of all these constraints, has done very well. There are many things that some of us would like to see changed. I mean, if you are talking about amending the constitution, there are so many things that one would like to see done. But we can't get all of them done at the same time, and we must stay where we are and look at issues from where we are right now.
Okay, before the election also, there was this case that Nigerians, everyone shouted. Considering the decision of the courts in Imo State, one, the Supreme Court judgment on the current governor, Hope Uzodinma, from fourth position to first position. And also the one involving Ahmed Lawan and Machima and Senator Godswill Akpabio. Nigerians, they have doubts and they have questioned integrity of the judiciary in matters of election petition. Now, what does those judgments, the three key judgments in the last 3 years, how does this portray the courts in Nigeria and how Nigerians have perceived it? So, and you are a professor, and from your own view, and from the perspective of Nigerians, what do you think this means to Nigerians?
Again, thank you very much for that. You see, when cases are decided, lots and lots go into these decisions. Some of them, of course, may not be well known to the general public. I'm talking about law. Things may not be what they appear to be, because let me take it at the basic level. Now, a man commits a crime in the marketplace. We all saw him, and we are all there, or we were all there, and we are ready to go and testify against him in court, if need be. But then the police and the lawyers are telling the public that, look, you must presume that man innocent. The fact that you saw him committing the crime notwithstanding, is still innocent in the eyes of the law until a court of law finds him guilty and punishes him by sentencing him accordingly. Now, that is something that even I, as a young and budding law student, as an undergraduate, at the beginning, it was, look, what are we talking about here? We argued and argued and argued, but the reality is law and order make the society to thrive and peaceful. Now, those judgments you referred to, I have my own views on them. Since there were Supreme Court judgments, I am not going to be a critic of that here.
Okay.
But I'll take you back.
Oh.
I think I can discuss this more. If even long before then, there was the what's his name, Rotimi Amechi case. How Rotimi Amechi became governor of Rivers State. Rotimi Amechi did not campaign. His name was not on the ballot paper. It was Omehia whose name was there. But because of an infraction of law that was committed by their party by substituting Omehia's name and taking Rotimi Amichi's name out of it, the Supreme Court in that case, and I must confess, I think jurisprudentially, I think that was a case that looked for just decision in the matter. And it was done. It's like trying to do political undertones should be brought in to thwart justice. And so a man who did not contest an election was declared the winner, and he became governor for 8 years. Now, in course of time, this judgment you are worried about may also have their day in public court successfully when things are viewed against the backdrop of how they happened. Ordinarily, when you look at it, how can a man, if the law says you cannot put yourself up for 2 elections at the same time, and you have done so, then you are out of the place. But the reality is you need to look at the judgments and what informed the decisions in those judgments. So I'm not going to pillory the judiciary because of the public feeling about some cases. And in any case, when how many cases do judges decide in this country on a daily basis? Thousands upon thousands of them. So if we have 1 or 2, I myself have had occasions in the past, of course, as an academic, I can criticize them, I can critique them. I did. In the case of, I can't remember the name of the first appellant now, the Ojuzo Kalu case, against the EFCC against them, where the Supreme Court, I believe, went so technical as to strike down a good amendment to the Federal High Court Act, that enabled a judge that's been appointed to a higher court to come back to complete the case. They struck it down, and sadly, all the evidence against those who are convicted went down. And they are now working about free people, because that is the way the final arbiter pronounced the case. So there are many things, it's not as if we are jumping for joy or everybody is happy. There are many things that we believe are not going too well here and there. But like I always say, where I come back to the point that, look, we should not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We should be very careful. Things may not be perfect, but things are not bad.
Okay. Having said this now, research has shown that after this last election, at least in every state, we'll have over 20 petitions. Also, I watched a senior advocate of Nigeria on television. When he was asked about people getting justice in these election petitions, and he was of opinion that somehow that election petitions many are not won in the court. He was too careful with his words. He said many of them are not won in the court. That somehow that these politicians have the mindset of, let INEC declare me the winner, then let's start the process. Sir, why is it like that?
Well, again, thank you for the question. The general principle of law in litigation of cases that he who asserts must prove. And it's the same thing at the election at petition tribunals. It's the same thing. If you allege that you have been meted with injustice by INEC at the last election, whatever that be it, senatorial or House of Reps or State House of Assembly or whatever, or gubernatorial at the state, if you make the allegation, it's for you to prove. And truly, if you look at the law, the Act of 2022, it's an uphill task for anyone wishing to vitiate the process as declared by the official arbiter, that's INEC. But it is not impossible. It's daunting, but doable when you have evidence. And we have seen a number of examples in the past where justice has been, look, some governors, the former governor of Edo State, the Labour man, Shomole, he reclaimed his mandate. Adegbeshola in Osun State, so many. They went to court and got their mandates back. And likewise at senatorial level, House of Reps, and so on and so forth. So it is to ensure that there is societal peace and cohesion that we must allow the rule of law to prevail. Anything short of that will be chaotic. And we cannot afford to have that. So when the law says if you are aggrieved, go to the tribunal and vent your anger there. You know how to vent it by producing evidence to show that things really were not done rightly to you. Once you can sustain that, you will get justice there. Now, for about people saying go to court, again, look, let's be honest. That may be a bit of, I think a lot of bravado goes into that. Oh, if you are not happy, go to court. You know the way we say things, we do things in Nigeria. Yes, you can. it doesn't mean that the man telling you to go to court has already done anything. I'm telling you, I think they just say it, because they know in truth it is a very difficult task to fulfill. Yes. And God knows how many people, because it's expensive, it's time consuming, and you really must be tenacious in your purpose to see it to its logical conclusion. And that is why, again, as I said before, I think we need to start looking at some fundamentals about the way we do this electoral process in Nigeria. I can tell you for free, if you allow me, that I believe that spending that amount of money, 400 billion, or thereabout, on election every 4 years. I mean, look at all the beavers and whatever that INEC got, a lot of technology. They spend so much money. And this process repeats itself every 4 years. And we don't get the satisfaction that we hoped the process will achieve. Why is it that we are stuck with this before the white man came? Was there or were there no processes of driving leadership emergence in Nigeria before the advent of the colonial masters? Of course there were. Another Alaafin is in the process of being, chosen. It is not everybody in Oyo that goes to the polls to choose an Alaafin. We have the Oyo Misses. It's electoral college system that brings to emergence a new Alaafin after the death of an incumbent. In the United States of America, which is the bastion of democracy, do you know that the American president is not elected on popular vote, but electoral college votes? Hillary Clinton had more popular votes than Donald Trump, yet she did not emerge as the president. So what I'm saying is, I think we need to start thinking further than we are. It appears we just look at, yes, we are going to do this, we are going to do that, that's the way we do it, and nobody is thinking beyond that. For me, at least for some offices, we don't need to go to the polls, everybody going to cast one man, one vote. One, if we look beyond this, I'm not trying to provide the solution during this program, I'm just telling you my thoughts, because I've been thinking that something we need to go beyond where we are. It will be cheaper for us if we develop our electoral college process, which was there at the traditional level. If we develop it, there will be ideas. We have scholars, we have people with knowledge. We can fine-tune it and find a way of reducing. It will even curb the emergence of aberrant candidates. It will. Because they will have been sieved out, and then the electoral college will be the college that will vote on our behalf. You see, because we must make this process cheaper, less time consuming, and more effective. What we are doing is doing the same thing and getting the same result over and over and over and over, and we are not making progress. So I think it's time we started looking at what we can do beyond what we have been doing.
Okay, okay, we are totally out of time. Well, let me get your last thoughts on the program. One, you've made a recommendation. Is there any other recommendation you want? Let's take it as our closing moment on the program.
Well, about elections in Nigeria,
yes, sir.
There are lots and lots and lots of recommendations to be made. I'm just trying to look at the structure. I think that is, if we want, if we are looking at the other effects, there are too many to be made. Why should INEC voting materials arrive late at any polling station on election day when there was, more than enough time to prepare for the election? Why should transmission that should be electronic not be electronic? There are lots and lots and lots and lots. And I think we need to sit back as a nation and look at what we upset and unhappy. Now we have the old terrain is uncertain, apart from where you've had the losers congratulating the winners in the few places. The other areas, it's daggers drawn. Everybody is up in arms. I'm going to do this, I'm going to fight you to this, we'll go to this tribunal, we'll do this, we'll do that. And it's okay because that's what the law says. But I think we should look for ways of making the need to litigate after election unnecessary, because we will all have seen that the process is free, fair, and acceptable. So that is what I would like us to do, to look beyond what we have. I don't want us to come back in 4 years from now doing the same thing we've seen done this year. It will be unfortunate if we have not learned any lessons, if we can't move forward from where we are.
Okay, on that lesson, we'll leave it on this program. But what we most sincerely thank you, Prof, for coming on the program this morning.